Good evening, welcome, thank you for joining us. This is the January 22nd, 2026 City Council meeting for City of Marion, the National Community of the Year, four-time Iowa All-Star Community, and the best places to raise a family and grow a business. Thank you for joining us. Please rise and join me in the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic that stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please be seated. Have a roll call, please.
Mr. Smith?
Here.
Mr. Uniman?
Here.
Mr. Jensen?
Here.
Mayor Alawadi?
Present.
Mr. Grant?
Here.
Ms. Menzer? Here. Mr. Harmon?
Here. Thank you. This time, everyone in silence. Okay, thank you. Next item is a public forum. Before we go into the public forum, I'd like to review the rules for public forums in these council meetings. We have two public forums on the agenda. The first one is for items that are on the agenda but not associated with the public hearing. If anyone's here to address council on an item that is associated with the public hearing, there will be time during the public hearing for comments. Then there will be a second public forum towards the end of the meeting for all other comments and items that are not listed on the agenda. If anyone would like to address council this evening, please fill out the yellow card and hand it to the city clerk before speaking. Please do not approach the dais where the council sits. If you have handouts to submit to the council, please hand them to the city clerk for distribution to the council. Please step up to the podium and speak into the microphone as the meetings are recorded. Anyone wishing to speak will be allowed a maximum of 5 minutes to make their comments. Please do not repeat comments or try not to repeat comments that were made by prior speakers. Please do not engage in any conduct or speech that is imminently threatening to any person, which incites violence or which is obscene. Please refrain from making disparaging remarks regarding any individual. That keep your comments pertinent to the topic at hand. Please do not engage in conduct that disrupts the meeting, or engage in speech or conduct that interferes with the ability of others to participate in the meeting. Failure to adhere to these guidelines or engaging in any disruptive speech or behavior will, after a warning, result in removal from the meeting. We appreciate everyone's cooperation and adhering to these guidelines. Okay, so at this time we have the first public forum, which is the time set aside for comments from members of the public topic, which is listed on the agenda and not part of a public hearing. Anyone here to address council? Please come forward. Okay, you know what's coming forward. We'll close this part of the meeting, proceed to the consent agenda.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda as follows. This will include items A1 through E4 and resolution numbers 32693 to 32705. Second.
So moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda as presented, including items A1 through E4, resolutions 32693 through 32705. Discussion. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say no. The motion is approved. I will turn over the meeting to the mayor pro tem for the next item.
Mayor Pro Tem, I move to approve the consent agenda with Mayor Wasley's abstention as follows. Item E1, resolution 32706.
Second.
Want to read the whole thing?
The actual resolution?
Yeah.
That would be resolution number 32706, approving amendment 1 to the Central Iowa Council of Governments, contract for community development block grant disaster recovery, grant administration and project delivery services for the Bridge Indian Creek project, and authorizing additional payment in the amount not to exceed $10,807.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second to approve resolution number 32706. Is there any discussion or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So the resolution passes with one abstention. I'll move the meeting back to Marion.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is a public hearing regarding the naming of the existing pavilion at the Valley Park. We have a presentation.
Yes, sir, Your Honor and Council. So this request comes from the Friends of Marion Parks. This would be named the existing pavilion at Tully Park, the Jensen Pavilion. After Glenn and Marjorie Jensen, both were members of our Friends group. They also, Glenn was also a member of our Park Foundation, which calibrates and works from for different capital projects throughout the parks. Both of them served as a cornerstone for our farmers market at Tommy Park, where they serve pastries out of the city. So the naming also, there was a recommendation from Park Board at the January meeting to approve the naming of Jensen Pavilion.
Okay. Thanks for that. Public hearing is open. If anyone is here to address council on this item, please come forward. Either in favor or in opposition. Come forward. Okay. Close the public hearing. Proceed to the resolution.
Mayor, I move to approve resolution number 32707, approving the naming of the existing pavilion at Telby Park as Jensen Pavilion.
Second.
I moved and seconded to approve resolution number 32707, approving the naming of the existing pavilion at Talley Park as Jensen Pavilion. Discussion. I have a question. Is this compliant with our naming policy?
So typically our naming policy, we typically name after deceased members, which is why we're Glenn passed away a couple of years ago with Marjorie. She's living with her daughter now, so that's why we're recommending the Jensen Pavilion, and we work with the Friends group on a plaque to recognize both, but rather than naming it Glenn and Marge to the Jensen Pavilion.
Okay. Mayor Pro Tem, don't get any ideas if it's named after you.
I'll make a comment though. They are no relation to me. However, I do think a lot of people may not recognize all the work that they've done for the city of Marion, but a lot of people will remember them as the owners of the International Pastries out of Lindell Mall that was out there for a lot of years now. Those of us that have been citizens of Marion stopped in that place probably only a few hundred times, but that's where a lot of people may remember this couple from. So.
Any other discussion or questions? Go ahead.
Well, even before International Pastries, I believe Glenn Jensen was the principal of Lindmar High School. And so the family's involvement from that angle in the community of Marion was exceptional. A lot of people that were on faculty when I was at the high school spoke very highly of him as principal.
Other discussion? All those in favor of approving resolution number 32707, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say no. The motion is approved. Next item is a public hearing regarding the Marion Industrial Recovery. Do we have a presentation?
So this project is a tree planting project, so it fits in with our discussion that we talked about in the past of getting more of our urban forest back that we lost as part of the derecho. We did receive several bids, the low bid coming in from Legacy Trees at $313,037, which was 68.5% of the engineering estimate. It does have a completion date of 9/4/26, liquidated damages of $500 per calendar day. And then to give you an idea on the locations of where these trees would be planted, they're marked here for low moderate income allowable areas. And then the unmet needs allowable planting areas as well. So staff is recommending that we proceed with this.
Okay, thank you. This time the public hearing is now open. Anyone here to address council on this measure, please come forward. Okay, have we received any comments outside the meeting?
No comments have been received.
Okay, close the public hearing, and I didn't ask if we received comments outside the meeting on the prior.
No.
public hearing. Okay, please note that in the record of both of those. We'll proceed to the motion on the disaster recovery tree project.
Yes, Your Honor, I move to approve the project calendar regarding the Marion Disaster Recovery Tree Project as follows. Resolution 32-708 through 32-709.
Second.
So moved and seconded to approve the project calendar, the Marion Disaster Recovery Tree Project, including resolutions 32708 through 32709. Discussion.
Yes, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
Just a comment, and for the record, in our council memo regarding this project, it's important to note that this is a grant funded activity which won't have any financial impact on resident taxes.
Okay, other discussion, comments? All those in favor of the motion to approve the project calendar for the Marion Disaster Recovery Tree Project, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say no. Motion is approved. Next item is a public comment period on final design memorandum regarding the Smithland Drive construction project. The public comment period is open. Let's have our presentation.
Yep, so this is a little bit more of a lengthy presentation than we're used to, but this is similar to what the residents have seen and what Mayor and Sarah was part of as part of a neighborhood meeting. So we're just going to go through those quickly, just to lay the framework for this project, and then we can open it up to the public to comment. So Smithland Drive is south of Echo Hill. It is less than 20-foot wide. It's about an 18-foot wide street. A recommendation is to take that to 24-foot wide concrete rural cross section. That would mean that it does not have curb and gutter. So it would just be a concrete street. The ditches would stay there. And then the culverts underneath the driveways would remain. We would extend the water main from the south section of Smithland Drive up to Echo to complete that loop. We would extend the sanitary sewer and extend laterals to the right of way for future connections. For both the water and the sanitary, the residents would not have to tie into those services until such time as Lynn County Public Health requires them to. So whether their well goes bad and they can't retrofit it, then they would have to tie into the water. If their septic no longer meets the standards, a lot of times what we're finding is the systems that were built met the standards at the time, but don't meet the standards today. So when they go to sell the property, a lot of times then Lynn County Health does not pass it. The other recommendation is to connect Smithland Drive to Oak Park Circle. The sub street is to the south. And then, this quasi cul-de-sac that's there now to connect that. And then the last recommendation is to defer the sidewalk at this time. So those are all the staff recommendations. So just again, kind of walking through the process. The street itself is about 18 foot wide. A fire lane for awareness is 20 foot. It has existing utilities of private wells, private septic tanks, long services. So these that are in red are actually long services where the sewer was extended as part of the Oak Park Circle subdivision and extended through the ditch because Lynn County Public Health would not let them repair the septic, or it was too expensive to repair the septic, that it was cheaper for them to run it through the ditch to connect to their existing system. And then safety issues with just having a dead end. So we looked at different options. We looked at an urban section that is our normal city street that you would see any new subdivision that comes in today, 26 foot wide, curb and gutter, and it would have storm sewer. We looked at doing a rehab section, which was just gonna overlay with 6 inches of HMA, hot mix asphalt, and then widen it. The rural section, which is our recommendation, is 24 foot wide, no curbs, keeping the ditches. And then the do nothing option is always something we look at, but due to the failing infrastructure, we feel that's a no-go. Sidewalk, the reason we're looking at the deferment of the sidewalk, there is sidewalk that's stubbed to the south. But when you look at just adding the sidewalk along Smithland Drive at the north end at Echo Hill Road, it would then terminate where if kids or adults were to use that sidewalk, there's nowhere for them to go. And so that sidewalk would have some scope creep, and we would have to do the south side of Echo Hill as well, where there's some actual sidewalk connections out there today. So the blue shows the connections that are there today. So northwest of the Echo Hill and Albinet roundabout, they can use that to come down, and then there's a pedestrian crossing to get to the school system. They can also cross with the rapid flashing beacon, Albinet Road down here at Oak Park Circle, use the Oak Park Circle sidewalk, and then use the network of sidewalks and trails that are back there. So that is why staff's recommendation to defer the sidewalk at this time. In the future, that would be a future consideration. It does make the street a little bit harder to construct, but just with the scope creep and everything in there. Again, that's just a recommendation of staff to city council. Again, 24 foot wide PCC rural cross section, extending the water main and extending the sanitary sewer from the south going north. And then there would be 24-inch RCP or reinforced concrete pipe culverts underneath the driveways. So then we talk about the south side. So this black line that you can see here, that's actually the existing edge of gravel or the chip seal that's down there. If we were to build this cul-de-sac for current regulations, it would actually be this green line. And so we would make it bigger for those turning radiuses. Instead, what we are recommending is actually connecting it to the stub that was provided from Oak Park Circle. So this helps with connectivity for snow and trash, emergency management services, whether it's fire, police, ambulance. Being that the existing cul-de-sac does not comply with current zoning regulations with the maximum distance from Echo to the cul-de-sac at 600 feet if it was to be built today. Existing, it's twice that. Again, it's not the correct size of the pole. And then Oak Park subdivision to the south, when it was built, that street was purposely stubbed for this connection to happen. So that, again, is staff's recommendation to do that connection. And then, I know you can't read this slide, the high level is staff is not recommending that the residents would pay for any portion of this street except for the utility extensions for the sanitary and for the water. So whether or not we put in sidewalk today or 100 years from now, we would not recommend sidewalk. That would be cost to the homeowners. We would have that completely on the city. And the roadway improvements, no cost to them on that either. So it's only for those connections to the utilities at which time they need to connect. So again, the recommendations that staff is looking for tonight, 24-foot wide PCC rural cross section, extend the water main, extend the sanitary, connect the Smithland Drive to Oak Park Circle, and defer the sidewalk. These are 30% plans. Once we get direction from city council, whether it be tonight or our future meeting, then we can proceed with continuing these plans for fully development. So I'll open up to the public for those. I know there's some in the audience, and I believe there's 2 letters that were received prior to the meeting as well.
Thank you. Okay, at this time, the public hearing is open. If anyone's here to address council regarding this measure, please come forward. Is anyone here to address council? Please come forward on this measure. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Justin Amley, live on Smithland. I'm not really looking forward to that road going through. I have little kids on that road. I don't really want to have them get hit by cars that are driving through there a lot more often now. That's pretty much my main concern. I don't mind them redoing the road, but I just don't really want them to make it through the road. And kids walk on that road all the time going to school. So that's pretty much what I have to say.
Thank you. Anyone else? Sorry, you can come forward here.
I understand I'm supposed to say mayor and members of city council. My name is Jerry DePenning. I live at 5408 Smithland Drive. I've lived there for 50 years almost. We lived there 35 years without being annexed into the city. The city has a lot of different ideas. The road we have is existing is fine the way it is. It only needs to be repaired. We own the road. We took chip sealed the entire time, and it was smooth. I invite you out today to see what it is today. The city has not maintained the road whatsoever. There are potholes there. One of our members that lives on our road actually went and bought asphalt to fill some of the holes. So that's one comment I'm sorry I had to make out loud verbally so you could hear it, but it's not a good deal. I've lived there, like I said, 50 years, and the patrons all live there for one reason. Like you, when you bought your home, you bought that home because you like the location. We bought a lot on a dead-end road. It was gravel at the time. We paid to have it chip sealed. We'd moved the snow ourselves for 35 years. Now the city, of course, we've been involuntarily annexed into the city. And so now our tax is only doubled. That's the way that things go. But it doesn't seem to take the money away when it comes to do the roads. If you notice the numbers on the board a little bit ago, is 17 grand for each person on the road, and a couple of them even have 20,000. That tears up the road. There are yards where we've spent hours and hours caring for our yards, or driveway entrances, all that's going to be tore apart. We'll have to do it. I can't do it all like I used to. I'm a little bit aged, and so now I have to pay for all of that. So I would say you could almost double the 17,000 time you get sewer to the house, because on the west side of the road, septics are all in the backyard. And our lot lines, our homes are 75 feet from the front lot line, so we're a lot further than most homes. And we have one house per acre, where the homes north of us is 5 homes per acre. 4 to 5 homes, so it's a lot. We have a lot more space in between. So I could go on for hours and talk to you, but it wouldn't. I'd entertain any questions if anybody had any, but that's all I have to say. And Smithland Drive is now a dead end, and I checked with the fire chief a few years ago that the road that Oak Park Circle south of us, it has a big circle of homes with one exit, but it has 3 lanes wide entrance and exit. Fire chief at that time said, we do not need another exit. If there's 3 entrances, and he knew the location, and it was fine the way it was. So I would, things that we've checked into some things in the past, and we would like to leave it the way it is now and repair it. Spend the money on other streets somewhere else. We're fine where we're at. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I am Patty Sassine. I live on the end of Smithland Drive where the turnaround is. I agree with Jerry. We all move there because it's a very, very quiet street. And I'm very frustrated with the answers. I've tried hard to look at this objectively. We are this quiet street that lots of people on the north side of Echo Hill walk our street. It's a direct route to the school, to the park. We have kids on bicycles. We have families with strollers, people walking dogs, kids with their fishing poles. I would guess we have more than the average number of pedestrians. And it's safe to do that now. If you connect and you open it up for more traffic, I haven't gotten good answers for what helps us, what takes care of us in that situation. There's no sidewalks. I haven't heard streetlights. It's a very dark street. I walk at night in the dark. I feel very safe now, but you put the traffic in there. And people are frustrated with the traffic on Echo Hill going to the school. You say it's a rule that to connect, but you ignore that rule all the time. Echo Hill schools the schools on Echo Hill are a perfect example. That street can't handle the amount of traffic. You can't get through the roundabout when there's a lot of traffic. And that's gonna end up on our street going through when the kids are walking to and from school. Another concern that doesn't impact most people, but I am at the end. And there is a lot of water that flows in the ditch, especially on the east side where I am. And I'm not hearing any way that will be improved. Everyone's culvert up at the road gets replaced and made bigger. Mine is not bigger, it's smaller, but they say it's set back farther. Well, it's not up to the street because it's at the edge of the base of the turnaround. There's no way for me to move it closer. And they want to leave the small one. There's always an issue with water flowing and slowing down as it goes around the corner. And I feel like we're going to dam it up with the road that goes through. And then looks like two little straws that go through there that are supposed to help. And I think it's just going to slow it up even more. And my front yard becomes the retention pond. So those are my issues. We're putting a road through to help the city, supposedly, but there's nothing in there to help us. It only makes our life more difficult. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hello, my name is Rachel. I am a resident of Smithland Drive as well. And I just wanted to come up here to share that I am also against this proposal. We bought our house in 2021. And like many others have said, we bought our home for the location. We have 3 little girls, ages 9 to 4, and we have spent a lot of time in our front yard. We have spent a lot of time spending on our bicycles, going for walks, going with our dog. And we feel that that is safe because it is a dead-end road. I have some significant concerns. If we open up a road so close to the school, without safety measures for our children. That makes me feel uncomfortable that we are going to allow more traffic and then think about the safety of children, especially so close to a school later. I think that that is something that we need to consider. But most importantly, again, when I think about why we chose Marion, why we chose to be part of this community and purchase the house that we did was because of the wonderful location that we have found on Arrowhead Street. So I just ask that you consider a lot of the things that others have said to me. Thank you.
Anyone else?
I need to know how those look hard. Do I need to do it first? Or can I do it after?
You can do it after.
All right, I'll do it.
Okay.
All right, Jake Lappy, I also live on the street here. I just want to talk about something that I guess didn't show up in the presentation from a cost perspective, right? Just so you guys are aware of everything that you're approving. We're talking about $1 to $1.5 million, whether or not that'll even touch what it's going to cost to do it. I don't know, but as I live in that area and I travel the streets, there's so many other places that we could spend this money, right? With the Albernette Road right there next to Oak Ridge, that place is just a zoo during school hours, right? It's impossible to turn into, if you're turning left into Oak Ridge, impossible to turn in there, right? Can we spend that money and make that road wider there so there's such that there's passing lane, right? That's just one example of other places that we can do this road. We look at the Smithland Drive in general, and it's primarily just us that are using that road right now. Open it up, that traffic starts flowing through there. High school kids picking up their brother or sister, right, flying through there. It already happens today when somebody comes down the road and realizes they can't get through. They turn around and then they fly back down the road. I guess my plea is to think about how we're using all of that money, right? $1.5 million that we're spending on that taxpayer money for just to build this road through. Is that really where we want to spend that money? I guess that's my pitch that I'm going to make here. Consider that. And then, the safety aspect is big for us too. I have small kids as well. And, we're on the road all the time and I can vouch for all those guys. They're always playing around the road or riding their bikes, going for walks, right? My family does the same thing. So thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else? Receive comments outside the meeting.
Yes, we received 2 comments prior to the meeting. Jerry Penning, who spoke tonight, wrote in opposition. And then Lauren and Janet Jellison also wrote in opposition of recommendations.
Okay. Mike, yours is outside of this. Okay. Okay. Anyone else address council on this measure? All right, we'll close the public hearing. Yeah, public comment.
Why would we do the files about the design memorandum?
Second.
Moved and seconded to receive and file design memorandum regards to Smithland Drive construction project. Discussion on receiving and filing.
Yes, Your Honor, just a point of clarification. Mike, the agenda memo and the attachment to that is what we're referencing in this item.
Yeah, it should be the complete executive, start with the executive summary and then several pages.
Right, okay, I just wanted to make sure that that's thought about. Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? All those in favor of receiving and filing the memorandum, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. Motion is approved.
Mayor, I move the motion directed
directing staff to proceed with the recommended design parameters of the Allen's Inland Drive construction project, including roadway reconstruction, utility extension, activity to all park circle and sidewalk road.
Second.
Moved and seconded. To direct staff to proceed with the recommended design parameters in regards to the drive construction project, including roadway reconstruction, utility extensions, connectivity to all parts of both and sidewalk referral. Discussion. Sarah, go ahead.
I've been involved with a number of meetings with the neighborhood here, and I think there's a couple points. One, I mean, I don't, this conversation about the improvements in the road and having that road fixed have gone back to when the mayor was Ward 4 representative. So this is an ongoing conversation that really has not been resolved. And I think it brought to light a few other things as it relates to our areas that have been annexed into the community that our staff is working hard to decide the next steps. And I think this is a really hard one, and we've had a lot of very intense meetings. And I see where people are coming from, and I guess it was brought up at one of our last meetings with the neighborhood, the thought of, and this is one of the things I'd like to explore, and that is not going to get the name right, bollards, the ball, like a classical type of a bollard that would keep the cars from using this as a cut through to avoid Belknap Road, which you know what happened. But would allow emergency vehicles to get through. It's not a permanent solution, but maybe it keeps people from getting in the habit of using that. That's just a thought I'd like to continue with. The other conversation really is around sidewalks. I do have concerns as it relates to, I'm not gonna get into playing on the streets because that's something wrong. But understanding where you're coming from or that, I do have concerns about this becoming a more used street and you're dumping cars onto it. Ballards don't happen and we have no sidewalks. And I do have concern, and I know that that's a conundrum. If anybody wants to know, I'm not staring down, not making eye contact with you. We have these little screens up here that are showing us the presentation. So when I'm looking at it, I'm looking at a map that's close to here. I don't know, see if we have these, but I have concerns on this. And I know there's connections on the north side of Meadow Hill and what we do about a sidewalk there. But I really have concerns about us not putting sidewalks in. It is my understanding, correct, and I'm not sure if we have expressed this with the neighborhood, that any sidewalks that would be put in there are not on the cost of the neighborhood. It's on the cost of, that would go to the city. So that's not a resident cost if sidewalks are put in. And I don't know if that changes the emotion of having sidewalks on the street or not. I know there was some opposition to it from some of the neighbors. As we talked about different options, so if there's no cost, I didn't know if that's something we should be exploring, because I do have concerns about not having sidewalks into this road. The other thing I want to clarify, or have someone clarify, is that just doing a minimal or patching, this is almost in our world doing a minimal or patching, right? I mean, we do have some requirements when we are in the city to address what standards, or once we touch a road, we have to do certain things to it. Am I correct, Mike? Or not?
So I don't know if there's necessarily a law or regulation that we have to. At City of Marion, we reach higher and we do the right thing. So if I was to reconstruct this street, it makes no sense in my engineering mind to reconstruct the street or to fix the street and not do everything that's underneath the street. So installing the sanitary sewer, so it's there, any other improvements that need to be done, just like if it was any other reconstruction, we look at the sanitary sewer that's there. Does it need to be slip lined? Does it need to be replaced? Because that's the worst way to waste taxpayer dollars is to pave a brand new street and the next year tear it out to fix the sanitary that's underneath it. So we're always gonna look at it holistically and what needs to be fixed and start from the bottom up.
And so, and on that note, residents of the street on the sanitary, which is kind of caught this a little bit, is that they are not being required to hook up right away. It is not our call to require them to hook up to the sewer.
Correct. The only ones that would be tied in right away are these four that are circled, because what we would do is we would run sewer likely down one of the ditches. Again, these are only 30% plans. There's still lots of things to figure out. And then we would run it to the right of way line or their property line and connect it to that existing service that they've already ran. The rest of them, it could sit there for 10 years or 100 years, depending on when their septic system is deemed no longer usable by Lynn County Public Health.
Okay, but I'd like to have some comments talking about if we did not connect it through, what is the impact of that on providing city services? So comments from the fire chief on how that impacts their ability to go in and out, our ability to do snow removal, garbage pickup. So how all of that is happening, because right now you're talking about, I drove down there before I came here today. I knew where the street was, excuse me. I knew where the street was, but I never, been down, so I did that tonight. So I've got that picture in my mind. And it is a very nice quiet area, so I completely understand all of your comments on wanting to leave it like it is. I truly do. But from the standpoint of how does this, if it were to dead end, or what's the concern, the problems that we're having now providing city services with that having a cul-de-sac and a dead end?
Yeah, start chief.
Yes, I'll start. By leaving it at dead end, it does increase the chance for a delayed response should there be a need for an emergency response on their roadway. One way in, one way out does limit access at times during, whether it's increased traffic flow, should there be debris in the roadway, should there be a car accident, increased traffic. By having one way in and one way out, it does impede the flow of emergency services. 2 ways in and 2 ways out increases our opportunity to provide quality emergency response. In our business, time matters, whether it's cardiac risk, survivability, the spread of fire and flames through a home. We take our responsibility of response performance when our community needs us most very serious. So by connecting this road, it does provide additional access to those residents, should there be an impedance on another side. Many times, depending upon whatever the emergency is, there's more than just one emergency vehicle that's responding. And so by having multiple routes of access, that also allows for the capacity to provide those resources at the location.
Just one other thing, Chief, can you, Terrell, can you advance the slide so you can show our circle as well? Excuse me, because it's not just what Chief was just talking about, it's not just access to Smithland Drive, but if you look to the subdivision of the South Oak Park Circle, there is only one entry point in there as well. So what you're doing is you're essentially connecting two neighborhoods, so you're providing more than one access point to Smithland Drive as well as Oak Park Circle.
And all the area north of Echo Hill. Right now, this is a pinch point here.
So since that is a dead end and it's a small cul-de-sac at the end, how does the garbage truck move in there and snow plow? Can they make a turnaround on that current cul-de-sac?
Yeah, we currently do it. It's not obviously ideal, and that's where I just wanted to show, if we were to not do the connection, then we would make it for our current standards today. So we would make it bigger. So it'd go from that black line to the green line to make it appropriate size. So there would be acquisitions that are required as part of that, where we're showing in purple for those acquisitions.
And if I can, Mike, just jumping in here, with the connection, if you did have a connection, it does allow for more efficient runs of the plow trucks
Right.
and the garbage trucks. Instead of having the plow trucks back up, and we can now reroute, so we're doing one pass. And keep the momentum going through and around and not have to back up and.
See, to me, from my standpoint and how I look at this and how I would vote, I look at this somewhat similar to how we looked at the cul-de-sacs. And we had those discussions and a lot of people coming in, perhaps not happy with the final decision for some of the cul-de-sacs. But the final decision in my mind for those was what is the best thing for the safety of everybody involved in that street and the area. But given that same aspect, if we were to talk about connecting this, I personally would not be in favor of connecting it without sidewalks. It's kind of like the comment that Sarah made. They're talking about the kids playing out there. Well, you know, you got the street only. And so now that's going to be, it's a walking street now for some of the kids going home. And if that's a through street, you're going to have more kids using that street as a walking street. And just like they're talking about, there's obviously going to be a lot more cars going down that street at different times of the day. So to have that street as a connecting street without sidewalks, to me, makes that entire area less safe, a lot less safe than it is today. So I would not support connecting this through without having sidewalks. I know that may be an issue with some of the people, but if I look at it from a safety standpoint, which is first and foremost in my mind, how I would vote on this, I would not support it without sidewalk because of that safety issue.
Yep, so if city council chose not to defer the sidewalk, we would obviously include it as part of the project.
Go ahead.
Well, I certainly know more about this project than I did after just reading the project descriptor. I have, quite honestly, more questions now than I had going into it. And just let me just quickly enumerate what those questions are. Certainly the concern about traffic flow that's opened up. I'd be interested to understand what would be the result of traffic flow? Can that be estimated if in fact it's opened on the south end? The one speaker mentioned the drainage issue. And I think there needs to be some additional visibility into any drainage concerns that either exist now or perhaps need to be remediated through this project, just to understand how is drainage, proper drainage being accommodated. Sidewalks have come up. You know, I immediately went to if that is a more active street, do we have any ADA compliance issues, other issues that need to be factored into whether or not a sidewalk is put in place? Then, Chief, you made comment about emergency access. I think that boils down to a time factor. I still think that's an important issue as I think about how that area is developed. When I moved to town, Smithland Drive was there, and the schools weren't, along with the rest of the houses. And so now I'm beginning to think, within that total, I'll say that little sub-region of Marion, that has, my supposition is that has a little bit more of an emergency response profile requirement than when it was originally just out in the county. And I think probably there's some other unintended consequences here that we might not have contemplated about this. I certainly, if there is a mechanism by which bollards can be put in place to restrict traffic from the south, and I think that might be meeting the principal concern of the residents. The rest of the project, you know, could go forward. I don't know what that looks like. I don't know where that, you know, has been employed, but it seems like it at least is something we ought to evaluate and see if there isn't a model that can be responsive to the concern. So I'll end my grant rant at this point. And just say, what's the time for ask, what's the time sensitivity to this?
So currently it's in the CIP, I believe it's fiscal year 27. So it'd be July of 26 would be when we would let the project, so we still have time. There's only 30% plans, it's just we didn't want to continue down a route if city council wanted us to go a different direction, being that this is one of those first projects that we're taking in, a project that was annexed into the city and we're retrofitting it. Kind of after the dust settles on this, we will be doing the subdivision annexation policy, so we have a framework for how we do these for all of the roads that we've annexed in and how we address those. This is the only one that I know of that has the connection, that's a major issue. The rest of them, you know, how do we take maintenance? What are the triggers for water or sewer to bring into those? Because again, they're on septics and on wells. So we have a lot of those areas that have been annexed in that we still need to address because they are now part of Marion. So.
Well, I would just, Your Honor, just close, I think we ought to keep this project in the soak cycle a little bit longer to see what other opportunities or issues that we need to at least account for, since it isn't something we've got to get done this year. We have a little bit of luxurious time to evaluate some of these other parameters.
Mike, explain one thing, you mentioned that the septics could remain in use until such time as the county requires that they hook up to the sewer.
Right.
Or, well, what happens if there's no sewer line through there and the septic fails?
Yeah, so, and I wouldn't say it's necessarily failing, it just doesn't meet today's standards. So there's 4 already of the 12 that live along Smithland Drive. And so, you know, when we have a lateral that's that long running in the ditch, that's not a good practice. And so that's what we let them do at the time, was run that really long lateral in the ditch and connect it to their house because they couldn't fix the septic, or it was cheaper to run that lateral. So we're just trying to get away from doing that and provide the city services that we should provide.
Would they be able to replace the septic? That's what I'm trying to get to.
So that's up to Lynn County Public Health. The city has
There's no
no
requirement that you can't place it once it fails.
if Lynn County Public Health lets them. Now, once the sanitary sewer is in, if they're so close, then they would make a tie-in. Yes.
Your Honor. If I may, city code does provide that once the septic field fails, if there's a connection readily available, that connection is mandatory.
If the connection is available.
Correct, yes.
City code or county?
City code.
Go ahead. Go.
With widening of the street, how does that affect the ditches, the drainage ditches? Is that, are you gonna have to dig those out closer to the homes?
Yeah, so that's something that we'll get in.
How we doing?
So yeah, anything that we do, we will design it so that the ditch handles the amount of water. We have to look at the 100-year flow route as long as what goes through the pipe. So all that is engineering standard practice that we will dive into. You can see on this one, we're proposing a couple large culverts. So you can see here's the cul-de-sac. And so there's a couple large culverts that we're proposing to put in there. Again, these are only 30% plans. We didn't want to go too far if council wants us to go a different direction.
And sidewalk would be on the outside of the ditches.
Again, to be determined. Yeah. We would
So
put
there
it
could be
where
no ditches, sidewalks.
it would be hard. A lot of the houses actually sit lower than the street. Not to say nothing's impossible, but again, we looked at different alternatives, and in that memo, you can see that there is, when you're going from 24 to 26, obviously that's more cost, but.
I'm curious, sorry, keep going, I'm curious. From the residents that spoke this evening, they seem to be more talking about the one lady with the, what is that, down the street, talking about the street going through. I'm curious what the residents think of widening the street. That really brought up by residents. If you two have any, if you've met with them,
got any comments on what they may have said, no? Yeah, the widening and actually making it a city street versus just doing an HMA. Moving on.
So even our proposal of doing the HMA, we would still widen it, and that's, even though it was a cheaper solution today, it's not for long term, because when you just add a couple feet of HMA and you have a base of that chip seal, you're gonna have that break, because you have uneven subgrades. So that's why when we look at the life cycle cost, that was not our recommendation. So even with the HMA option, we were still widening it. Again, we have design standards that we're gonna bring it to.
Sure.
We don't just wing it.
No, I understand that, but what, so it's 18 foot now, which is an HMA, but 18 foot, but
So we would not recommend that, because that doesn't even meet fire code, it doesn't meet our standards. So again, we're gonna build it to our SUDA standards.
I understand that's not what's being recommended, but that's
Yep.
something that could be done. I mean, that feasibly that could be done, it's not gonna.
If we're directed to do that, yes, we could do that. Yes.
That's all.
Councilmember Bustamante.
Thanks. Yeah, last year when we talked about the cul-de-sac situations, I said, well, I kind of still believe for this situation, which is, I don't think residents know their neighborhoods best. And I think each pocket of neighborhood kind of has its own unique characteristics and culture. And looking at this neighborhood, unique size of the lot sizes, I kind of agree that I think through street isn't really necessary, and I think having a through street without a sidewalk is not true through street. However, I think, I am also a believer that every local city limits, you should have modern and city infrastructure. So it does seem from folks that speaking, the folks that have been, that most of the folks are for repairing the street. They're just against having them through street. And so I think having the infrastructure without making it a through street. It's kind of where I'm sitting, where I stand. I think there are there's a handful of kind of similar streets in South Marion that exist the way they do like this. They're not the actual cul-de-sac, they're the street, and every neighborhood situational, and there's never gonna be a completion on those streets that would make it easier for public safety coverage, garbage trucks, no plows. It's just kind of what you have on these streets, what you have on a lot of streets. So yeah, that's kind of where I am. And I understand the safety points that residents brought up with not having a sidewalk and having a street. I understand that folks pick where they want to live based on relation. So yeah, just trying to respect those characteristics. The culture that the street kind of has in its own little neighborhood in the neighborhood. So that's where I'm at. Yes, sir.
So the decision ultimately before it's here is gonna be proceed with the recommended design parameters, and what, if that's given, what happens next?
So then, assuming that you agreed with staff's recommendation 100%, or whether you deviated with it, we would take whatever feedback and then we would continue with the design. So right now, we're only at 30% plans. We want to continue to work on getting those plans so that we can bid them and continue the project. If it needs to sit through a soak cycle to think about it some more, we can certainly do that. If there's certain items where, yep, we agree with that, and that, let's dive more into the bollards or something else, we can certainly look at those options and bring them back to city council for further consideration. So if there's certain items that you're good with, and we can act on those and table others, we can certainly do that.
I just have a couple of questions still before I answer. What about the lights? Is there gonna be, are lights part of this project?
In this case, if there are not street lights, they would just be the normal subdivision lights that are put at 600-foot spacing. So in this case, I would have to double check, but I'm assuming there's light at this intersection. If not, we would add one at the intersection And then we put them at 600-foot spacing, so about halfway down, we typically put it on a property line. And then depending on what we're doing down at this end, whether we're adding a light down there, again, Oak Park and Smithland Drive to the south should have a light at that intersection, but that's something that we would add if this is a REC or Lynn County REC or their new name, or whether it's Alliant, we would have to just work with them to put that in just like a developer would.
And the residents concerned about the drainage and the water.
Yeah, so that's all part of the engineering design. We have standards for all that, so.
So the engineering of the road would.
We would make sure that it was all addressed.
Get off the water.
Yes.
I mean, these things are, we know this isn't the first county subdivision that has been brought into the city, and these things are always very difficult to balance the interests of the residents, the city. You know, I understand the city's safety concerns, when Councilmember Harper mentioned about just that area has grown so much, and when the road was built, it wasn't. There weren't the same concerns that there are today about public safety and having adequate access. But then, you know, it's hard to understand that the residents like what they have, they like the situation. The city has an interest in it. We want to fix the road for them, but we want to do it to our standards. We want to do it to the standards that we hold ourselves to for the entire city. We don't want to have to do something twice or, you know, or more than we have to. If we're going to build a street, you know, we want to do it right, we do the entire infrastructure, I get all that. My mind, you know, after meeting with the residents, did go to, you know, how can this, you know, how can there be a solution that sort of, it's not, neither side will be completely happy with it, but it accommodates at least, you know, some of the concerns of both sides. And, you know, I do agree that making it as a through street without sidewalks, yeah, and adding all that traffic to it, which it's very reasonable to expect that there will be a lot more traffic on this street without sidewalks. I don't think that's the right way to go. I agree with my fellow council members on that. I also agree that, you know, where my mind went was, how do we, can you make that connection usable only for public safety or for, you know, certain emergencies, that it's not available in general to the for traffic, for general traffic. That's sort of what my mind was. And I thought it through. Yeah. All right.
Thank you, Mayor. What I've been hearing is lights, traffic, sidewalks, based on the feedback from the residents and the council. What I would recommend is that, table this matter, allow us to come back, do some research on the bollards. Just clarify the placing of lighting, what is there, what isn't, what that would look like. Sidewalks and the additional costs, so then we can bring back this with those options, so the council would have a full picture to continue those deliberations.
See, so I understand the concept of the bollard, what they are, and the functionality of that. Let's say we did that. And we still have our snow plows come down to the end of the street or the garbage truck. Without a circle there, how do they turn around?
Yes.
If I can, that's the analysis that I want to make sure we're going through, talking through. And you know, we haven't looked at the bollards. I don't know if there's bollards that exist where we could allow for efficient passing of our plow trucks or garbage trucks to go over. And that's the kind of stuff I want to make sure we're looking at to see if that is something that could be accommodated, or if the bollards would only be for emergency situations. So at least the council has that complete picture.
Because that's we don't find anything here that we think functions as we would want to do it. I think the only two options are it's a through street, or we consider a cul-de-sac at the end of a scale larger than what is currently there. And that satisfies a lot of the current residents' request, not a through street, but that have to be a much bigger cul-de-sac at the end, and everybody needs to understand the ramifications of that, especially the people who own those lots at that south end, so. Thanks.
But I was just gonna talk about my opinion on this real quick. I think I agree with what Gabe was saying down there. All the way down, it's like so far away. I don't see the need to open up that street. I think that's gonna cause a lot of issues with people there, especially someday. I know it's not anytime soon, but I feel it's gonna go to the east, having more traffic come through that area. And we might want to cut through to get away from roundabout because they don't want to drive through roundabout. So that people that do that. So when I was asking about just HMA and what it is, honestly, right now, that's kind of what I'm leaning toward. Would love to chat with the residents a little bit more too, because I'm sure they're fine keeping septic and well that they have now, and just replace it if they ever have it. So the feel of the neighborhood, like Dave was talking about, that atmosphere, I mean, I hate to take all that away from that neighborhood, because those are nice, bigger lots. Someday when they don't want to live there again or anymore, they're gonna want to sell those. People are gonna want that type of spot inside of the city, so. That's, it might be, for example, so, I don't know. The ballers, you'll just sell. That option wasn't even. That sounds very strange, and I don't think that at all. So.
Anyone else? Anyone interested in entertaining the motion to table it?
It's not actually. Directed to do that, so we just try to table or turn it down.
Would it be a motion to table?
Thank you, Your Honor. You can make a motion to table, which would require follow-up at the next meeting to bring it back off the table, or council could make a motion to postpone to allow time for significant or further follow-up to answer questions.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to table the I'd like to table the motion directing staff proceed with the recommended design parameters regarding Smithland Drive reconstruction project.
Second. It's been moved and seconded to table motion. And just to be clear, there was a difference between tabling and postponing.
Okay. Technically, yes, and under official Roberts, so to renew the discussion regarding the original motion at a later meeting, there'll have to be a motion to remove that item from the table. It's just a procedural thing, ultimately the same outcome, but just to remind council.
Okay. So. Not different outcomes, okay.
Right.
Okay. Discussion on tabling motion. Okay. All those in favor of tabling the motion to approve the project calendar I'm sorry, to approve the recommended design parameters for Smithland Drive construction project. Please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. The motion to table is approved. Next item on the agenda is a public hearing on the Indian Creek Access Site Number 1 project. Give a presentation.
Yes, Your Honor. So this is site 1. So it's off of Wallace Road. It's actually just east of us here and north of future Tower Terrace Road. This is a access point, so it has a parking lot, an area for kayaks to get down into the water. We did go out for bid. The low bid came in from Machi Construction at $287,756.57, 80.1% of the engineer's estimate. There's a detailed bid tab in the packet. Has a completion date of 9/4/26 and liquidated damages of $1,000 per calendar day. And we are recommending proceeding with the project. If you recall, this is also part of the ImagineX Indian Creek Ride project.
Okay, the public hearing is open. If anyone's here to address council on this matter, please come forward. We received any comments outside the meeting?
I have not received any.
I should. No. Okay, please note that for the record. Close the public hearing. Speak to the motion.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the project calendar regarding the Indian Creek Access Site 1 project. And this will include resolution numbers 32710 and 32711.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the project calendar for the Indian Creek Access Site 1 project. Again, this is part of the Creekside Pride, Indian Creek Master Plan, that was adopted by the city council. And, this is the very first project of making the improvements to make the creek more of an amenity and usable by the residents. Okay, discussion. Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I'm excited to see this on the agenda. Hopefully it passes. It'd be nice to get one of the sites completed and move forward from there for more access to the creek.
And thanks to the committee of residents, as well as public officials who have been working on this project for quite some time, so. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion to approve the project calendar for the Indian Creek Access Site 1 project, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say no. Motion is approved.
Mayor, I move to approve ordinance number 26-01, approving a rezoning request from TR2 traditional medium density single family residential to PUD planned unit development for property located at 344 9th Street, Marion, Iowa. This is second consideration.
Second. The moved and seconded to approve the second consideration of ordinance number 26-01. Approving the rezoning request from traditional medium density single family residential with planned unit development for 344 9th Street, Marion. Discussion. I have a question. The last item, I see Kill's not here, so the last meeting we brought up the issue regarding historic homes. And the continued approval of this request. I realize that this is just a rezoning request. It's not the site plan approval. It's not the approval of the project. It's going to go on this property. I guess two questions that will come back to council. And then the second question, and I'll let you answer both at the same time, but the second question is, has there been any progress made with regard to the historic home, and will future considerations of other steps in this process allow us to weigh in on that in a way that's actually, that impacts the outcome?
Yes, to both. Staff has met with the property owner and their structural engineer to go through the assessment. Staff has asked for more precise figures to get a better understanding. Staff has also been investigating possible historic grants for restoration. They are scheduled to have a follow-up meeting with the owner early February to review and find quotes and determine next steps with the project.
Okay. I appreciate that. So, discussion on the second consideration of the rezoning, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanna add a quick comment to this kind of based off your own question. Yeah, I just really hope, developer on this, really gets this moving along and, this neighborhood's kind of had a deal with this house sitting there for years now. And it's been an eyesore and all it has done in the meantime is deteriorate the houses more. So I also hope the developer does everything in their power to be able to save these historic homes. It's a lot of effort, but obviously moving them years ago. And, you know, did get a lot of attention, not only here in Marion, but the state of the country too, when the story happened. So it would really be a shame to see any of the buildings not make it through to this final project.
Other discussion? Okay, all those in favor of approving ordinance number 26-01, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion is approved. At this point, we have the second public forum, which is the time that's available for the public on any topic. Anyone here to address council, please come forward.
Can we talk again or not?
You're welcome to, sir.
I know the Smithland Drive is an important part to us because we've lived there almost 50 years. We looked at other properties thinking we could move after 5 years and build another home, and we thought, well, golly, we're on a dead end road. We're 3 miles out of town and nothing around us but farm ground. Somehow you put 2 schools on a dead end road, and that all that traffic up there is, I've only been hit almost twice pulling out there. Cars line up there, you cannot see to the right when they're all parked along there with the minivans and whatever they use. So that's why I would suggest you keep it a dead end road down there, so you don't have the through traffic issues. And that's why we all live there. And you know, I know you've heard that 1,000 times before, but we can also, as far as septics and sewers, we can handle those. Now we're gonna have to redo all the driveways, all the stone we've got lined in there, that'll all come out and have to be redone. And this was the $17,000 is not near enough. It's gonna take a lot more. And plus and another thing to keep on, we're acre lots. We don't have 5 homes per acre there. So we have a lot more space between the homes, and that is a definite advantage. You have fewer people on that road. And so if there's a need, we've had, I think, an ambulance in there maybe once. We had fire truck in there once. One of the neighbors decided to have a bonfire. A little more than they thought, I guess. Somebody called it in. Things like that happen, but if the road was, I hate to bring this up again, but if the road was maintained the way we did it, I apologize to the city, but if you drive out there now, why should we fill the potholes? I would ask you to drive out there and just take a look. Some afternoon, take a little cruise out there, wait and come in there at 8:30 in the morning when all the cars are lined up waiting to drop students off. And then at 3:30 in the afternoon, it's a whole different story. So I think dead end road's the only answer in there, because they're all gonna come down Smithland Drive.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anyone else to address council, please come forward.
Wes Nielsen, resident Smithland Drive. I appreciate all of you guys' consideration in this and putting a pause to it for, that means a lot to us. I think we feel that was important to consider. One of the things that I would like to bring up, we talked about some repair options. There is a really nice, Steve, you drove down it, there's some snow on it, so you might not have felt the ruts in the condition that it is. It is falling apart, right? One of the things that we were all pretty hopeful for was that a couple of years ago, there was cones set out and they did blacktop a nice section of it that's smooth. I mean, our kids left, but it reminded me of Lightning McQueen, right? Bumpy road, and then all of a sudden it's nice and smooth. That is a nice smooth patch. I know it's not gonna last as long as a concrete one would, right? But that's really, we get this through road stopped. I think that's what we want, right? That we would really appreciate that. But then I feel we're kind of stuck. Now we got this pothole road that still needs something done, which there was some progress made to that. And I think somebody looked at it and said, hey, there's this bigger picture we want to get through. And now everything stopped to the point that we got someone going to Menards with bags of asphalt and tamping it down, right? So that's personally what we're looking for, is that stretch that you drove down that's nice and smooth, stretch that out, right? And I know that doesn't fit in the widths and in the fire plans and all that stuff, but that's what we're after. So thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Anyone else?
Okay, move on to council comments. Member Harper?
Nothing for me tonight.
I'll just say, everybody be careful tomorrow with the cold. I'm glad we have automated collection, and hope that everybody in the police and fire department stay warm and stay safe. Thank you.
I think it was between council meetings, if not an election last time, but Councilman Jensen and I and Samantha, I was there too. We got a tour of the Marion Independent School District food pantry, which, they wanted to thank the city for the allocation that we gave last year, and it's really cool because it's also kind of a workforce program they have out there for some students with different special needs. And so these students run the pantry and they practice gathering the different groceries that they have set up kind of store formation at the pantry. And they have a conveyor belt and they practice bagging the items so that these students are prepared are able to add these experiences to the resume for if they apply for jobs in the future at grocery stores that have online grocery pickup, stuff like that. Because at the food pantry, local families put in their order online, so it helps kind of with the whole practice of the real world scenario to these students go out and graduate high school. So I just want to kind of point that out and thank MISD for writing us out to see it.
Okay, I just want to thank everyone, residents included, and everybody in this room for the respectful, thoughtful discussion on, a difficult topic. When a city's growing as fast as Marion is, it comes with challenges. A lot of cities would love to have our challenges, love to have our problems. But we do have issues we have to deal with that are brought about by growth. And unfortunately, the code of the state doesn't allow the city to grow around the county subdivision and create an island. And so if the city's going to continue growing, which, we have to, people want to move here, stop them from moving here. They like the services, they like the quality of life, and I hope that the residents of Smithland Drive also like the quality of life and the services of the city. From the library to our parks to our amenities, all the things that come with living in the city of Marion, that have really made it a magnet and a destination for people from across the country. 716 families last year alone, from 87 communities across Iowa, 44 states. and one foreign country, moved to Marion, chose to move to Marion. So I'm just saying that, you know, people are moving here because they like the amenities, they like the quality of life, the services of the city. I think we have, city people, city employees and leaders, who really care about providing good services. It wasn't always like that. I think today we are very service oriented. We're very committed to providing people with an excellent quality of life, but there are challenges with the growth. And you know, I understand the residents want to keep things the way they are. People move next to a cornfield and they want to keep a cornfield in their backyard. It's not always possible when you're in the city. The city has certain interests and making sure that we're protecting people. We can't discount the public safety aspect of this decision. I understand that there hasn't been any problems, but to the people who are in charge of public safety for this city, one incident is too many incidents. And I don't think that they will be very happy to have an incident where they couldn't get to someone because of the access. You know, we really can't discount those concerns. So as we proceed with this, I just would hope everyone continue to see the best in each other, give each other the benefit of the doubt, and trust that everyone has the best intentions here. No one is trying to make anyone's life difficult. No one is trying to make things worse for anyone. We're trying to balance all the interests and do things in the right way and serve our city in the best way that we can. So I appreciate everyone's understanding. And with that, the meeting is adjourned.